What is Pyro doing on my screen? We see the immediate pivot into Shadow Malamar. The opponent banks some energy, pivot into Wish Steady Cash. Jonah not messing around, going straight for that Hail Mary. The question is, does the opponent respect the damage? Welcome back to the channel. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of shoutcasting my good friend Rigo's battles using a very rare and very hard to obtain Purified Return Giratina in the Open Great League. Today is finally the day where I'm going to take a look at Shadow Giratina. Today's featured battler Jonah isn't running any regular Shadow Giratina. He's invested in Elite TM to give it his legacy move of Shadow Force, because let's be honest, even the Shadow variant of Giratina hits somewhat like a wet noodle. I'm sure if you watched any of my content previously, you'll know there's two things I enjoy: Shadow Pokemon and Pokemon running surprise nukes. Today we've got the perfect combination of both, as Giratina isn't the only Pokemon with that Hail Mary. Team partners today is going to be Shadow Malamar running that surprise Hyper Beam nuke. Rounding out Jonah's line of three, we've got Morpeko operating in the lead position, which should be stripping shields left, right and centre, giving the backline the best opportunity to land them Hail Marys. With all that being said, without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, we lead Morpeko into Goodra. This isn't the best matchup, we're somewhat obliged to stay in, as Giratina running Shadow Claw isn't going to fancy the work either. Aura Will, despite being resisted, lands some monstrous damage, instantly putting Goodra below half health. The opponent looks to return fire with the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail lands for heavy neutral damage. We look to fire off the Psychic Fangs, but unfortunately die as we reach the charge move. We pivot into Malamar, the opponent not wishing to concede a farm down, send out Big Man Blastoise. Blastoise rocking the sunglasses, gonna fire off the Hydro Cannon. Malamar absorbs the damage and gonna YOLO the Hyper Beam. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Blastoise might think it's thick, but Malamar might have had a little something to say about that. Jonah pivots into Giratina. Giratina looks for the one shield. Full Shadow Claw farm down, which we're able to get. The opponent sends out Quagsire with two shields to hide behind, but despite that fact, once again, we are YOLOing that nuke. Shadow Force gets no respect, and the opponent's going to do their very best impersonation of myself, and it looks like they'll be saving two shields for next season. Quagsire went for the Aqua Tail bait, but no bait was ever going to change the opponent's fate and was able to take that game. In the next battle, we see the world's smallest Bastiodon in the lead position. We save switch into Giratina, and I guess the opponents had somewhat of a seizure as they send out Annihilate into our Giratina. Today's tip of the day is don't send Annihilate out as a counter swap to Giratina. Out comes Bastiodon. We're finally going to see a Shadow Force land on something bulky. Well, that was quite underwhelming, but we got the screenshot regardless. Jonah with the option to realign, going to opt to send out Malamar here. The sideways are going to be resisted. The foul plays do get same type attack bonus, but aren't going to be all that threatening. Potentially two will knock out, as the sideways, despite being resisted, are starting to chunk. The opponent actually saved Bastiodon, make the foul play catch onto Giratina. I'm not entirely sure what the heck is going on in this battle. The opponent probably tried to catch the Superpower, in fairness. Jonah now has the perfect alignment as we're able to send Morpeko out to greet this Giratina. And after landing that foul play, they are certainly in Aura Will range, potentially even Psychic Fangs range. We shield the first Dragon Claw, tank the second, not comfortably as Morpeko is insanely glassy. We heavily overfarm, fire off the Aura Wheel, look to move Giratina from the field of play. Aura Wheel does exactly that. Bastiodon will be re-entering the arena, but this Bastiodon's already chipped, and this Aura Wheel probably comes quite close to knocking out, if not knocks out. Unfortunately, Bastiodon able to survive on fractional HP. We send up Malamar. Malamar gets the resisted sideway farm down, and we're able to take that game. In the next battle, Jonah is the algorithm confirmed. As Morpeko stares down the hot air balloon, the opponent completely core broken, opt to send out Furret, that also has a losing matchup. Morpeko fires off the Aura Wheel, forcing the first protection of the game, and enters Hangry mode. Jonah more than happy to match Protect Shields. The opponent full send the Trailblaze. I'm not sure if I agree with that play. Whilst it does vamp up their attack, these sucker punches aren't doing much as Dark does resist itself. Jonah fires off the Dark type Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel removes Furret from the field of play, and this could be a full Morpeko sweep. Out comes Dubwall, and we are looking for that sweep once again. Full send in the Aura Wheel, which unfortunately does go shielded. These double kicks starting to chunk. Morpeko looks to reach one further move, but unfortunately unable to do so. We send out Malamar, farm up, look to catch on Giratina. Please tell me this isn't a payback. Oof, wild charge. Very, very nicely done. The opponent opts to send back out the blue, and you can see Jonah reaching for that Shadow Force, but unfortunately is going to get outpaced. But I love it. We're going to invest the Protect Shield. Unfortunately, we now got a -1 attack, but I have no doubt this Legacy Shadow Force will be popping that hot air balloon, vanquishing it back to its Pokeball, get that Drifblim off my screen. Back out comes Dubwall. Giratina going to fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw isn't quite lethal, but the damage is already done. No one move should knock us out. The opponent full send the Wild Charge. Malamar withstands the damage, Sideway farms down, and we're able to emerge victorious. GG's. In the next battle, we see the mirror match, Morpeko versus Morpeko. So this one is going to come down to who's got the higher attack, and unfortunately, it's not Jonah. The opponent strikes first with the Aura Wheel that's supposed to be resisted, but almost does all of our HP. Jonah returns fire with his own Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel forces the Protect Shield, and I think we need to pivot out or we're just going to get farmed down. It's actually the opponent here that makes the pivot into Jumpluff. We bank the Psychic Fangs and then make the counter swap into Malamar. When I first saw this battle submission, I was thinking, what the heck do you do against a Fairy type? We are triple weak to Fairy. Of course, Jumpluff isn't a Fairy type. They are using Fairy Wind as a quick move. Unfortunately, Jonah ends up shielding the Aerial Ace. Who doesn't love to bait a Shadow Pokemon? The opponent the next time full send the Energy Ball, but Malamar shrugs off the damage, reaches one further foul play, and should be able to shore up this mid-game matchup. Down goes Jumpluff. The opponent sends back out Morpeko. We pivot back into the mirror, fire off the Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs forces a final Protect Shield, but this still looks like a dire spot to be in. This is by no means a good matchup for Giratina, and we still haven't seen the third yet. The opponent fire off the Electric Aura Wheel, despite being resisted, still doing half our HP, and then send out Gligar. We're kind of obliged to shield up this Aerial Ace right. Jonah, last second, investor protection. The opponent's actually on Night Slash. Giratina gonna strike with the Shadow Force. Does Shadow Force pick up the one-hit KO? Yes, it does. Back out comes Morpeko. We farm up, make the catch. Okay, we are back in the game. We've already seen from us tanking a Dragon Claw that you do not tank a Dragon Claw from a Shadow Giratina particularly well. If your name is Morpeko, we re-enter the arena with that Dragon Claw banked, and somehow Jonah is able to take that game. Very, very well played battle, buddy. I thought we were doomed. In the next battle, we see the battle of electric types. Whenever I see these two Pokemon, I just think they're both knockoff Pikachus. It's really unfortunate that the knockoff variants of Pikachu, Morpeko and Dedenne respectively, are both meta relevant when the franchise's signature Pokemon Pikachu and its evolution Raichu are both horrendous in PvP. However, let's return to the commentary and for once not try and go off on a mad tangent. We fire off the Dark type Aura Wheel that is resisted and the opponent's at +1 defense, but still lands for heavy damage. Morpeko just doesn't give a shit about typings. Dedenne fires off yet another Parabolic Charge, once again boosting their defense and moving Morpeko from the field of play. Giratina enters the arena. The opponent once again baits with the Parabolic Charge, but I don't think they're going to reach a play rough. This again is just a Parabolic Charge. Giratina more than happy to absorb the Parabolic Charge. That doesn't do much of anything and exit completely loaded. Out comes Dusknoir. Trainer, it's just a Dragon Claw, I promise. It's just a Dragon Claw. Shadow Force! Ah, goes shielded. However, we make a very nice catch, catching the Shadow Punch onto Malamar, where it's only neutral damage. The opponent rebanks some energy and then send out Furret. With no Superpower, this looks like a very difficult game to win. We're going to be able to knock out this Furret with the Hyper Beam, but I don't think we can overfarm enough to reach a foul play at the return in Dusknoir. If we get farmed down, which is looking quite likely, this is game over. The opponent gets that Hex farm down, leaving with the Shadow Punch. Poor old Giratina going to be straight in and straight out, and that one does end in heartbreaking defeat. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see yet another battle of electric types, but this one definitely not one Morpeko fancies. We see the save switch into Giratina, baiting out Azumarill. How much is this Shadow Force going to do to one of the bulkiest mod in the meta? Shadow Force is such a trash move, I'm being brutally honest. It's so bloody expensive and really doesn't do as much damage as you'd hope for. For those of you that like the numbers, Shadow Force costs 90 energy and does a pathetic 120 damage, returning 1.33 DPE. Poltergeist, one of my favourite moves, is 75 for 150, a whopping 2.0 DPE respectively. Unfortunately, Giratina, even running the Legacy Shadow Force, was unable to flip that mid-game matchup, and this looks like an RPS loss. I don't even think Hyper Beam is going to help us out here, as Mandibuzz is just so bloody bulky. We're going to YOLO it regardless. Even if it goes unshielded, it's going to do a lot, but never going to put him in foul play range, meaning we're going to have to land yet another Hyper Beam to move this very annoying bulky Vulture from the field of play. We tank another charge move, look to reach the Hyper Beam, but the opponent like, nah, I'm going to fire off a charge move and remove you from the field of play. Morpeko has 2 shields to hide behind. Can we still win this game? In Morpeko, I believe. The opponent go for the Aerial Ace Bait. I'm not entirely sure he wouldn't throw the Dark Pulse or foul play, whatever your second move is. We are never ever shielding this. Of course we're going to save the shields for the moves that will be coming from Stunfisk. Back out comes Stunfisk. I think here you could potentially go for the Psychic Fangs bait. We full send the Aura Wheel. Wait. There's no chance we're triple resisted Thundershock farming downright. Or failing that, we'd have to reach 3 Psychic Fangs. Is this still a winnable game? Surely not. The opponent's still got 2 shields. Morpeko unleashes the first Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs, of course, go shield. The opponent is so low, but these Thundershocks are essentially healing them. Morpeko gonna burn the final protection. It's gonna be a race. Can we reach the double up before the next Mud Bomb comes? Unfortunately, we cannot. To be honest, that was an incredibly close game, considering the god-awful alignment we had. GG's to both trainers. Heading into the next battle. Once again, we see the 2 knockoff Pikachus facing off against one another. Jonah wastes no time, goes straight for that Aura Wheel that is resisted, but we already know it's going to clap this little mouse's cheeks. The opponent this time at least looking to fake a play rough, but let's be real, there's about a 0.0000001 chance they're actually going to send the play rough. We all know this is going to be a parabolic charge, hence the no shield. The opponent has now, of course, buffed up their defense, but end up playing to the CMP tie. They do not win. A shout out the GOAT, Home Slice Henry, for that quote. The Dene might think is attack weighted, but definitely nowhere near attack weighted as Morpeko. Out comes Sizzle. Morpeko still not done. Going to reach one further Aura Wheel, forcing the first Protect Shield of the game. This energy on Sizzle is quite scary. We're going to send out Giratina because the Shadow Claws do at least hit for neutral as opposed to the resisted sideways. Jonah shields the first Night Slash, which I'd usually say you don't want to do because it does have a chance to boost. And if they boost, this next one would actually knock out. Holy crap, man. Shadow and Shadow Crime, that Night Slash did ridiculous damage, but Giratina able to hang on, reach the Dragon Claw, force the final protection. We send out Malamar able to sideway farm down, and out comes the big fat bunny. Jonah wastes no time. There's no shields in play. We full send the Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam, monstrous damage, and that should be all she wrote. Even if they full send a Scorching Sands, it isn't going to knock out. The opponent go for the Fire Punch bait, but that bait simply doesn't change the opponent's fate. Malamar reaches the foul play, and we are going to be emerging victorious. GG's, and thanks for playing. Clearly, Jonah's opponent, not a huge fan of getting beamed to the face. As you can tell by the huge amount of lag, they did rage quit the app, which is very, very annoying. Heading into the next battle. See Dusclops in the lead position. The opponent says no thank you. Say switch into Drapion. So if you're the Drapion user here, you can spam the Aqua Tail. If you're able to get there before the Aura Wheel's reached, and you do actually get your turn back. I guess the flip side of that is whenever I've been Drapion into a Morpeko lead, and I spam the Aqua Tail, it's always caught on something that does resist water. It looks like the opponent here does farm up and throw what I would say is a good opportunity just before the next Aura Wheel's reach. But we actually spammed the Psychic Fangs and it ends up being a CMP tie. Just the Thundershocks have done like the majority of Drapion's HP. This Drapion's already down to around a third health. Once again, we saw the opponent this time throw the Aqua Tail just before the next Psychic Fangs, because at that range, the Psychic Fangs would actually be lethal. As their debuff, we send out Malamar, get baited with the Aqua Tail, but we're still able to go for the one shield, full sideway farm down. Back out comes Dusclops. I think, to be honest, I would have liked to see the foul play thrown here, as then we could have went straight Dragon Claw, but we're actually going to bank the energy and send out Giratina. Clearly, Jonah's got me questioning who I am. Do we throw Dragon Claws at Dusclops when we've got that Hail Mary Shadow Force? He did invest a Protect Shield, looks to reach the Shadow Force, but the opponent actually send out Cradilly, and it's actually Cradilly that gets rocked with the Shadow Force. Once again, not the most impressive damage. I really think Shadow Force needs a buff. Or would that make Giratina too strong? Potentially. But hold that thought. We go for the wham, bam, combo play. Serve the opponent up that Big Mac and the fries. Foul play. Knocked out Cradilly. Back out comes Dusclops. Malamar reaches another foul play and sweeps the back line. GG's and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see a fantastic lead. A Shadow Big Man Blastoise doesn't want the smoke. The opponent safe switch into Goodra, which is quite a problematic safe switch. No immediate response, so Jonah stays in. Fires off the Aura Wheel. That is resisted, but still does half their health. Morpeko enters the Hangry mode. I'm just going to set off the Psychic Fangs. While Psychic Fangs won't be lethal, it will do the majority of the remaining HP, and the opponent actually invests in Goodra. Goodra invests that Protect Shield, and we see the pivot into Giratina. They've got a boatload of energy, potentially as a Draco. I doubt it, but sometimes better to be safe than sorry. The opponent likely doesn't have Draco. They opt for the double Aqua Tail. We shield the first, respecting the big move, which they don't have, and we're willing to tank the second. Back out comes Big Man Blastoise, and this is just a Hydro Cannon. Shadow and Shadow Crime, can we survive? I guess we're not going to find out as we invest a Protect Shield and look to return fire with said Shadow Force. Shadow Force, Shadow and Shadow Crime removes Big Man Blastoise from the field of play, and out comes the opponent's own Shadow Giratina. The opponent ends up getting the perfect farm down, farming us down just as we receive the energy for the Dragon Claw. And now this looks very difficult to win. We send out Morpeko, force the energy, but the main issue we've got is the opponent still has a shield to hide behind, and they've got a lot of fast move pressure too. Gudra is still alive as well, very low, and potentially can be used as a catch. The opponent tries for the catch attempt unsuccessful. We're now at the double. Do we survive that Dragon Breath? I don't know. The first foul play forced the Protect Shield. Unfortunately, we don't survive the Dragon Breath, and the opponent takes a very close win. Well played to the opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Dusknoir in the lead position. A nice lead for Morpeko as the usually oppressive Astonish damage is resisted as Dark does resist Ghost. The opponent bank their energy, make the Aura Wheel catch onto Stinky Binky, but that chip damage is very welcome as we don't really have a great way of getting rid of Carbink. The opponent catching there has actually done us a favour. It's certainly going to put them in a range where Giratina just needs to land one singular Shadow Force to remove them from the field of play. I think this always goes unshielded as well. The opponent's probably thinking it worse. It is a Shadow Sneak, which is survivable. What's a prize trainer? Get Shadow Force. Get that silly butt plug off my screen, and out comes Ferret. Giratina still not done. Going to reach the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw, decent chip damage. Certainly putting in a range with one further Aura Wheel will pick up the knockout. We are at a shield disadvantage, and the opponent still has 2 shields, so landing said Aura Wheel could be quite problematic. We're actually just going to settle for the Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs will lower their defense, but the opponent can just reset this debuff and pivot back out into Dusknoir. Jonah, not wishing to concede a farm down, saves Morpeko as a potential third shield and pivots out into Malamar. We're going to shield up the Trailblaze, and even though the opponent's got a debuff defense, they're more than content to stay in as they are now 2-stage boosted. Malamar looks for the Psywave farm down, unable to get it. The opponent reaches yet another Trailblaze, and this time it's Ferret that sweeps the back line. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, fantastic lead. Morpeko stares down Jellicent. The opponent opts to stay in, so I imagine they're going to try and make a catch. There was the catch attempt, but it's not like Annihilate would have tanked an Aura Wheel particularly well whatsoever. That Annihilate would have been straight in and straight out. We hold our energy and send out Giratina. Jonah tanks the first Rage Fist, which is definitely the way you want to play this matchup, as Rage Fist comes with a 100% chance to vamp up the user's attack, meaning subsequent ones after the first will do more. Jonah gets the full farm down, leaving with the Shadow Force. Jellicent doesn't return. Instead, out comes the Dene. Shadow Force almost picks up the one-hit KO. Giratina is a Dene counter confirmed. You heard it here first. Just Jellicent remains. We go for the combo play. Fire off the Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel strips the first Protect Shield, but Trainer, this game is over. The opponent hoping that Jellicent's able to sweep the back line. They're going to be very, very sad when we reveal our third, which also has a positive matchup into the Ghost type in. We fire off the Psychic Fangs. The opponent recognises just the Psychic Fangs, tank the damage. Giratina re-enters the arena with the Dragon Claw bank. Dragon Claw forced the final Protect Shield. We've now got Malamar with a shield advantage looking to sweep the back line. The opponent goes for the Surf Bait, but it's simply too little too late, as no bait will be saving the opponent's fate. We actually don't fire off the foul play, but Shadow Ball only hits for neutral. Malamar withstands the damage, Sideway farms down, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle. Morpeko doesn't want to take the Mud Slap damage this time. He looks to utilise Malamar on the safe switch. The opponent continued to stay in. Jonah takes the initiative, fires off the foul play. Foul play able to land and instantly puts them down to round a third health. Jonah going to invest to Protect Shield, and I imagine go straight for the foul play. Looking to move this Marowak from the field of play. Jonah actually looks for the Sidewave farm down, which we're unable to get. We survive the Bone Club, look for the Sidewave farm down, and unfortunately we end up getting Mud Slap farm down instead. Jonah looks to get himself back in the game, sends up Morpeko, able to get an energy lead, and out comes to Denny with a 2-1 shield advantage, and this looks like quite a tough game to win. Surely as we only got one shield, the opponent's just going to YOLO a play rough. I think they're short. That's only 6, right? The opponent go for the Parabolic Charge, which certainly helps our case in winning this battle. Jonah farms up, tries to trap the opponent into the CMP type, unleashes the Dark type Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel gets little respect and does almost all their HP. This huge threat to our backline has been near neutralised despite the type disadvantage. We now send out Giratina. Giratina gonna look for the Shadow Claw farm down. Once again, the opponent doesn't commit to their play rough. Trainer, you would have certainly got there. And all you're doing now is feeding us yet more energy. The opponent's final Pokemon is revealed to be Big Man Blastoise. No messing around. We are going straight for that Shadow Force. Shadow Force is able to land. Big Man Blastoise might think it's thick, but Giratina says, you, sir, are not thick enough. The opponent actually had Ice Beam too, which we shielded, and were able to take that game. In the next battle, Morpeko into Feraligatr. The opponent say no thank you, save switch into a Bullet Seed Cradilly. I thought we were going to go for a catch. Probably on Giratina, we actually stay in, tank the Rock Tomb. Ouch. Morpeko really is a glass cannon. It hits like a truck, but in return, cannot take a hit for shit. We bank the energy, send out Malamar. Malamar able to strip the first Protect Shield, firing off the foul play. The opponent there probably shielded for two reasons. Firstly, respecting a Superpower, which we don't have, and secondly, they're an annoying Rock Tomb user, which means they can debuff us. I mean, if you shield the first move, subsequent ones will do less. The opponent able to survive the debuff foul play, then pivot back out into Feraligatr, looking to make use of the misaligned timer. Malamar fires off the debuff foul play, which is an easy tank for Gator, then give the opponent that wham bam combo play, try to serve the opponent up that two-piece chicken meal. The opponent let go of Feraligatr and put all their hopes and dreams on the Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death. Morpeko still not done, gonna fire off the Psychic Fangs, forcing the final Protect Shield, and Giratina should carry us home. The only lose con at this point is us getting hit with a Brave Bird to the face. We've got two shields. I think you just shield whatever. Even if it's a bait, who cares? The opponent plays their win con. YOLO the bird. Bird bounces off the Protect Shield. Back out comes Cradilly. Rock Tomb simply not going to cut it. Giratina able to get a massive farm down. Is Shadow Force time. We reset that debuffed. I think even debuffed it would knock out. But why not reset it when you've got the opportunity? Giratina reaches the Shadow Force and we're able to take that game. I think I need to chill on all these chicken references. I've just woke up from night shift and I'm making myself very hungry. In the next battle, we see Ferrothorn in the lead position. We pivot into Malamar. The Malamar save switch is answered by a Zoom Roar. And why should you run Hyper Beam? Well, this is why. Hyper Beam, bang, oof, almost one shot in one of the bulkiest mon. This is the easiest one shield, full side wave farm down of Jonah's GBL career. Malamar isn't a Zoom Roar counter confirmed, leaving very healthy with residual energy good to go. Now we've revealed Hyper Beam, it probably tells the opponent we don't actually have Superpower. The opponent sends out Morpeko. We have got a lot of energy. The fear of a beam forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. This can only be a foul play, or potentially a Superpower, which I think, if I was the opponent, I know we don't have, but the opponent invests both Protect Shields, and we should be in a good position. Here we just enter the mirror and save Giratina. For that Ferrothorn, we know they've got lurking in the back. We do exactly that. We do enter the mirror. We are going to burn the final Tech Shield, blocking up the incoming Aura Wheel. We just need to make sure the opponent doesn't make a catch. Speaking of which, there was the catch attempt. Catch attempt unsuccessful. We bank the Aura Wheel and send out Giratina. The opponent fires off the Thunder, meaning they don't have Flash Cannon. It's likely Power per second move. And if that's the case, I think you should go for Power Whip. So that does get same type attack bonus and both moves are single resisted. Giratina absorbs yet another Thunder. Reaches the Shadow Force. Shadow Force going to be moving Ferrothorn from the field of play. Back out comes Morpeko. Morpeko going to be greeted with the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw won't quite be lethal. We've got a move bank, which we tried to go for the combo play, but it looks like unfortunately we lose CMP. Huh? Why would you Seed Bomb? So your grass type that gets stabbed doesn't throw the grass move at our dragon. But Morpeko Seed Bombs us anyway. That was one of the strangest endgames I've ever seen, but we're able to take that game. In the next battle, what the heck is Pyro doing on my screen? We say no thank you, save switch into Malamar. The opponent tries to make a catch onto Wish Daddy Cash, but all they're about to catch is that work. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Wish Cash straight in and straight out. Back out comes Pyro. Jonah going to invest the Protect Shield. Shielding up the Flame Charge, which is going to boost up this already impressive Incinerate damage. Malamar undeterred, fires off the Foul Play. Foul Play strips the protection, and just the Psywave damage has got this thing into the red health range. Jonah still with a shield to hide and looks like he's going to put it all on Giratina. The boosted Flame Charge almost knocks us out. The opponent able to Incinerate, farm us down, but in return, Giratina able to get a very nice double resisted Shadow Claw farm down, and the very nice energy. Out comes Cradilly. I definitely agree here with just throwing a Dragon Claw, because this likely forces shield as the opponent's going to shield the first move and then look to debuff us. I really don't see a win con for the opponent. They're going to need to land 3 Rock Tombs. 2 need to land and 1 needs to strip the Protect Shield. Jonah doesn't even respect the first. Commits to the Shadow Force even at -1. Shadow Force just does far too much damage. The opponent going to get Shadow Claw farm down. And Jonah is going to end today's video with a big fat dub. And I believe that is a perfect 502. Very nicely done, buddy. And very fun battles. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's Shoutcast. Firstly, a huge thank you to Jonah for the battle submission. I love Shoutcasting, especially when we have some surprise nukes. Is Shadow Force the move you're looking for on Giratina? Probably not, to be honest. 90 energy for 120 damage. It does hit hard and give Giratina the potential to actually do some meaningful damage, but the move is just absolutely garbage. How the heck can you spend 90 energy and only do a pathetic 1.33 DP? But Giratina is very bulky, got a decent type in, so I guess you can't really give it too much of an OP move. However, I think Shadow Malamar running Hyper Beam is certainly something you should consider. You saw it flip that Azumarill matchup and one-shot various Pokemon, just not respecting that big Hail Mary. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new, consider subscribing. If you'd like your battles featured on my channel, a link to our battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.